I have a little problem with this particular software that I'm using to share with you guys. Not to worry, it's just trying to find all the connections. But nonetheless, we're here. I hope you're doing well. I see already 60 of you popping in to enjoy this day with me, and I am so excited. I've positioned myself right here in front of this quilt, okay? That is a work in progress. This is a quilt that Hugo is designing based on Portuguese motifs. So it's Portuguese colors, which is red and green and yellow. And then there's little hints of blue popping in there as well. But he is working on this Rhapsody quilt. By the way, so in the center right here, right there, okay, that's going to be the Portuguese flag shield. There's a shield in the middle of the Portuguese flag. And you might be interested to know this. These little guys right here, these carnations. So this is the 50th anniversary of Portuguese democracy. And in that revolution, there was a lady who had some carnations, and the story has to do with the rifles with the soldiers, and she would come and she put carnations in those. So that is what that represents. So I hope you're having a great day. I'm happy to be visiting with you guys. We've got North Carolina, we've got Austin, Texas, and Germany and Sacramento. It's great to see all of you guys today. Today I have someone that I want to share with you. This is Cyndi McChesney. Cyndi is a quilter and wonderfully organized, fun quilter. She had a quilt accepted into Houston a year or two ago. I can't remember, but it was a fun, wonderful quilt that she had done. And she has been putting together some books. Now, Cyndi has been on our quilt show previously. I'll give you the numbers of that later. But I just want you to enjoy this video with Cyndi, and then I'm going to come back and chat with you after the fact a little bit so that you will be able to follow up any questions that you might have. So without further ado, I'm going to get right into it. Thank you again, you guys, for your patience. And we're going to just simply start right now my interview with my good friend, Cyndi McChesney. Hey, everybody. I'm here with my good friend, Cyndi McChesney, and you've got to get to know Cyndi if you don't already. So, Cyndi, welcome. We're glad to have you here.
Good to see you.
So, Cyndi, you're out in Virginia these days.
I am in Virginia these days, kind of the Middle Peninsula, I think is what they call this region.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm not familiar with the geology or geographical, areas there, but I do know it's a beautiful state. And I know you're from Colorado. That's where your heart is, because Cyndi used to work for me, you guys. She was like my right arm, keeping all of the Ricky Tim's logistics organized in my world. So I've known Cyndi for a long time, and she's made kind of a necessary move to Virginia. But you know what? We just do what we have to do and turn the page and see what the new chapters bring, right?
That's exactly right.
Well, speaking of new chapters, you have written 2 books since you were working with me. And today we're going to be talking about book number 2, right?
Yes, we are.
Give us a little bit of the background for this particular book. What's the nucleus for it, and your vision and purpose for it?
So book number 2 kind of followed what I did in book number 1 was just introduce some ideas for ways that you could use panels. I kind of fell into panels, thank you, Alex Anderson, at one of your seminars where we were working together, and then started doing some different things with panels. Book number 2 gets into the nitty gritty. How do I make this happen? How do I design a quilt? How do I create my own quilt blocks? How do I make the math work? It's all about the how do I. There are not specific projects in the book. If you want that, you're going to have to either order a pattern from me or wait for the next book, question mark, question mark.
Well, let's give everybody a big hint at this. This is called Playful Panel Quilts. I am so excited that you've got this ready for us. I want to give everybody the full cover. A beautiful cover, Cyndi. This one is one of the more montage type quilts, right?
That's correct. The upper part is actually from one of the row by row quilts above the title, and then below the title is one of the montage quilts. Yes.
Well, let's talk about the different types of quilts that you've got in here because, again, this is not going to be, I have a pattern for you to make. It's giving you the tools to be creative and original in easy guidelines, right? So let's start with the first one. What is the first?
So the first one is we're all familiar with those quilt patterns that are one or two blocks or one block repeated with a blank space in between. And of course, the best example of that would be an Irish chain quilt, because when you make an Irish chain, there's always a big open space. And you could do, some beautiful quilting in there, but what I chose to do was to insert panel images in that space. And I think it makes for a really fun quilt if you start to look at those one and two block quilts that are repeated and start to think about how you could insert panel images into those quilts. So we talk about how to make all that math work so that you can do that with whatever size panel image you have on hand.
So we just looked at this quilt that is based on an Irish chain. Tell us a little bit about this quilt.
Well, this quilt, I've always wanted to try this. And so this particular panel, which was a Robert Kaufman panel, that the Dr. Seuss alphabet, was the perfect quilt panel to do this with because there were lots of images, 28 of them to be exact. I didn't use all 28. I only left out one, but the joy of this was that then I got to play with my collection in my stash of Ricky Tim's hand dyed fabrics and make it really scrappy, really bright, really colorful, and highlight all of those letters from that panel.
I think it's really fun and it's playful, and I'm really glad that you chose to use those primary colors because, I mean, I would assume that this is going to be for a toddler or for a youngster in maybe grade school, and they just love bright colors. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
Plus, it's a good one if you can get a hold of that panel and do something fun like that. It's a great way to help the children learn how to read and find the letters in the alphabet.
That is a great idea, absolutely. And you know what? While that's a particularly great panel, there are going to be other kinds of panels that do that very kind of thing that you just discussed. All right, so
Exactly.
so that's kind of block by block by block. That's doing blocks that we know that have a big, maybe an open space. It could be a star block or something that just has a big square in the middle of it or something like that. And they're just going
Exactly.
to use those panels. So what's the next one that you want to share with us?
The next one that I started playing around with was row by row quilts. I had never made a row by row quilt, and I one day was just thinking about panels and what else could I do with them. And I suddenly, sometimes inspiration just strikes. And so
Right.
I, how much fun would it be to do a row by row quilt using a panel that had multiple images?
So
So,
tell everybody what a row by row essentially is so that
oh,
they don't get confused.
sure. So a row by row quilt is created literally in rows. Each row has a different theme. It might feature a different quilt block. What I did in that particular quilt was to use two different panels. They're really kind of companion panels. They same creator and so on and so forth, same colors. And then I just highlighted in each of the rows that were traditional quilt blocks, or maybe a block I had to draw myself, some of the panel images. And then in between those, and you'll see this with any traditional or any typical row by row quilt, there are other rows that have related themes. So obviously the paw prints and the hearts. And the fun of making these is the challenge of making all of the rows the same width, because the blocks you're using might not be the same size. So it's kind of fun to find the theme rows and then figure out how you're going to make all of your panel images in the blocks and so on and so forth. So
So basically what you're saying, these quilts are going to be made in rows, right? And this rows kind of have the same thing. This will be a little different. And they can have different heights, but they all have to end up being the same width, right?
Exactly. And I do have to say, a row by row, we mostly think of as horizontal, but it could
Oh, it
be
could be.
vertical.
Yeah, it could be. I see that. So as long as your vertical bars are the same width, then every one of those has to be the same height. So you could do it that way. Look,
Yeah,
the quilt behind you, is that a row by row?
that is a row by row. Yeah, it's
Tell.
called surprise party. I'll
Oh,
dip out of the way a little bit here. It was really meant to kind of highlight, a surprise party. There's a row of candles in there. There's another row of kind of wonky blocks at the very top, but birthday cakes, flowers, candy, whatever you want to include. I like to get my inspiration from the panels. So I study what's in the pictures, and that's where I get my theme rows, like the candles and the flowers and so forth. So,
sure. And
yeah,
I have to assume that the panels also kind of derive your color selection.
absolutely. Yeah, I spend a lot of time in the closet with my fabric, holding my panel up and pulling as many fabrics as I can because. As I think it was Freddie Moran once said, if 10 fabrics is good, 100's better. And I have to say, I agree.
I kind of agree too. And definitely you go shopping every time you're making a new quilt to get all of these fabrics because you don't have any in your stash to use, right?
Oh, no, absolutely not. You know what's funny though is you will start digging through your stash and then suddenly you realize I don't have any yellow or I don't have the right shade of yellow, which is always a good excuse to go to the fabric store.
Yeah, we definitely need those excuses to get to the fabric store. All right, so we did the block by kind of side by side, and then now we've done the rows. So what's the next one in the book?
So the last one that I really dig into is a little art quilt. And I was playing around one time trying to figure out something different. It's always about what can I do differently with a panel. And I came up with this idea of doing a montage. At first, I was thinking collage, and I kind of literally stumbled upon the word montage, which really means words, images, and music. And I needed to interpret music a little bit differently. So, what I chose to do was to use embellishments. Music is an embellishment for movies, commercials, TV shows, you name it. Music's an embellishment. So, I just sort of replaced that word. And now I like to try and find what kinds of embellishments can help to bring these to life. So on the bottom of this quilt, you can see all my fishies have little wiggly eyes, and
Oh,
there'll be other fun, be other fun embellishments in the different montage quilts in the book, and you can add really pretty much whatever you want to add as an embellishment. And then the words, of course, relate to the theme, and the blocks relate to the theme. And the tricky part of these is once you get it all sort of designed, how are you going to sew it together? Because obviously the rows are not all the same height and so on and so forth. So the challenge is in creating a map so you have a roadmap on how you're going to put it all together.
so I don't want to say that that's a harder quilt. It just takes a little more thought and math perhaps to make it work. And you guys, I mean, I got to see a preview of this book before it even came out into the world. And one of the things that I loved is that Cyndi is driving you to be original and be creative, but using those wonderful panels that are out there as you're jumping off a point inspiration. The challenging thing for everybody, though, is the math. And honestly, I had to take a picture of this page because this, Cyndi, is really the crux of the whole thing, right?
I think so. I think you can have all the great ideas in the world, but if you don't know how to execute it and make it come together, you're going to get frustrated and you're probably going to give up. So I think the key is a lot of quilters get really freaked out when we say the word math and they go, oh, math, it's a 4-letter word. Well, here's another 4-letter word for you: love. So once you learn to love the math, you're going to be really successful and your creative ideas are really going to jump out of your mind and onto the page and into the fabric, and you're going to be creating something unique and original.
So let's talk about the math. Are you talking about, physics and geometry? No, we're talking
So
about simple math, right?
math, maybe a little geometry. And I think, 10th grade geometry was one of those things where We started to have our attention looking more at the boys in the class than the whiteboard at the top of the room, but we still remember things like, perimeter and squares and triangles and
Right.
rectangles. And let's face it, most quilt making is basic shapes.
Yeah.
You can break things into basic shapes, and then it's just figure out how you make all those basic shapes fit together so that you create a block.
Right. And in this case with panels, what you can't change, what is not a variable, is that the print is the size of the print. So that becomes the rule, the stable thing that you work from for there. And I think that you've really, truly given us really great, simple thoughts on how to do it. So you guys, the math part is not going to be hard, but it is one of the most important sections in that book because it's going to make everything fit together.
It does, and I also have another saying. We all know that KISS saying, but mine is a little bit kinder. It's keep it simple, sweetheart. It doesn't have to be hard. You know?
I like that. Yeah, keep it simple. That's fun. I like that. So, all right. So, Cyndi, this has been a passion of yours. This is your second book, kind of on panels, and I know it's a fun thing for you to teach. Let's talk about your teaching. Where do you teach? Where people can find you? What are the opportunities that they have?
The easiest way to find me is on my website, which is www.cedarridgequilting.com. And that's all one word. Just run it all together. No capital letters, no dashes, no fancies, anything. It's just cedarridgequilting.com. That is my website. And if you just play around on my website, you're going to find what kinds of trunk shows I do and all the different workshops that I do. And then we can talk about how would you like to have a trunk show or a workshop. I do Zoom opportunities, or if there's another platform that you prefer, but online live trunk shows as well as workshops. And then also in-person teaching. I will come to you. I'm more than happy to travel. I love traveling still, despite all the hassles that can go along with it. And then, of course, you can come to Houston this October and take a couple classes from me there.
That's exciting. Congratulations. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, this is my second trip to Houston, and I'm really looking forward to it. If it will stop raining, because I didn't want to pack a raft.
I think by November or October, it should definitely have stopped by then. Of course, we
I
don't know what hurricane season is going to bring because I've been to enough Houstons to know that there's weather, or there could be an Astros World Series, or yeah, all of that.
Yeah, all of the above. I'm within walking distance of the convention center this year, so that's a good thing.
Well, I also really encourage everyone, please get on Cyndi's newsletter. How do they do that, Cyndi?
You can do that right through my website as well. Right on the home page of the website, there is a little button. You just click on it and sign up. And I do get my newsletters out only once a month. I'm just not very good at sending lots and lots of information, but I try to send important information. So you'll get to see what I'm doing, what's new, what's exciting. This month's newsletter announced my first on-demand class. Then there's also always a quilt making tip of the month. And that could be something that would relate to panels, but maybe you could carry it off onto another part of quilt making. So, for example, this month I talked about coping strips, which is a big deal when you're working with
Yeah,
panels, and how you do the math for the coping strips, and that it's really not as scary as most people make them out to be, and what the biggest pitfall is with a coping strip. And that's one of those where people, like, put that piece of fabric on and then whack it off at the bottom, and why you shouldn't do that. And then every month there's just a little quick tip, so just
that's
something.
good.
Yeah, and what am I working on, or what has a student sent me that they, are especially proud of, or whatever it might be. So they're short, sweet, and simple, and once a month.
I just want to show the book one more time. Playful Panel Quilts by Cyndi McChesney. And Cyndi, I would love for you to tell us a couple of success stories. I know you've had students, most of the quilts that we saw today. And if there's one we didn't show that I have to show, and is it the steampunk quilt?
Yes, it's that steampunk quilt.
Yeah, because this is by one of your students, and I'm a steampunk fanatic. So tell us a little bit about this.
Well, the fun part about this one, as you may notice, it is technically a row by row quilt, but she did it in columns. The panel itself had some large sections and then some small sections. So, in order to make this all work the way that she really wanted it to work, she did it in columns instead of rows. And I love that she added the goggles. I think those are just fabulous. And then a couple of other related themes, the pumpkin blocks and some other fun filler. Didn't get too carried away, but it had some really fun ornamentation on it as well. So doing something fun, sometimes people look at a panel and they like, I bought it because I liked it, but I don't know what to do with it. That's what I'm hoping that you're going to do now, is get it out of the closet and look at the possibilities. And so Catherine did this quilt. She was the program chair for the Quilt Guild in Springfield, Missouri. Ozark,
Ah,
yeah, Ozark Peacemakers, and this was
whoa,
right
that's
here.
going to be my new neck of the woods
Yeah, you'll
someday.
check these out. They're really fun. There are a couple of quilts in the book from people in that guild. Some of them are row by row. I think actually a couple of them were row by row. But I've had a lot of people do panel quilts that all of a sudden, lots of guilds are doing challenges after the workshops. So they'll do next year's quilt show is going to be a challenge using panel quilts, or the whole show is going to be on panel quilts, or we're going to have a section of the show on panel quilts. And I love that, just because to me that is a success story. It's people being creative and trying something different.
I just like 2 or 3 weeks ago was in Grand Junction for the Sunset Slope Quilting Guild for their show, Maces to Monuments. And they had an entire section devoted to only panel quilts. And what people did, is like what you're doing, but also different. There's so many fun ways to make it happen. And it's really rewarding because sometimes you just need to get something done. And it's panels are a great way to get quilts done a little faster.
They definitely are. And I also think they are a great way to dip your toe into designing an original quilt. The idea of starting with a blank canvas and having to design an entire quilt can be a bit overwhelming. But if you've got a panel, then you maybe start simpler. You start with a big solo panel, and as much design as you want to put in it is to simply make a pieced border around it instead of slab borders. And that's an original design. You've done something that nobody else has done. And so that's the joy of working with panels. They can make you realize that yes, you are creative. Yes, you can design a quilt. You just need a couple of little tools.
That is just great. Well, I am so proud of you. I love seeing your vision. You've been a good friend for so many years. I do miss you. Of course, you know that. I've told you 1,000 times. So, Cyndi really was the glue that kept my world together. So, I don't have my world together anymore. But uh, but that's okay. I'm turning new chapters and finding my way forward too. But Cyndi, I'm so happy to see what you're doing. I'm wishing you all the best. Thank you for taking time to share your insights with the viewers of the Quilt Show and the world at large that are quilters. And I really hope the book continues to be a good success and that people will reach out to you. You guys, you'll have so much fun with Cyndi. You can't look at that beautiful smile that she's got and lovely personality and not know you're going to have a fabulous class with really, really good enlightenment, instruction, as well as advice. So thank you, Cyndi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ricky. It's so good to see you. I miss you too. Hey, Houston, dinner.
We'll have to make sure that happens. Absolutely. Hugo and I will definitely want to have dinner with you. We
That'll
may
be,
go to one of our favorite places, Ninfa's, which is a Mexican joint there in Houston.
I'm in.
I'll treat you to it, okay? All right,
Sounds great.
Cyndi, thank you so much. And everybody, thanks for watching. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Take care.
She is such a delight, and I do miss her immensely because she's so well organized. And my life is creative, and I have to say, I can stay creative, but when it comes to crossing T's and dotting I's, that is a hard thing for me. So, Paul is saying something about new location, Ricky. I'm still right here in Colorado. For many of you, you may know that Hugo and I are making plans to move to the Ozarks in southwestern Missouri, but that's not going to happen until I sell a house on the mountain here. So that's what our world is like. And if you missed it, this is Hugo's quilt behind me that he's working on. By the way, this is his 6th quilt. So, I mean, he's gone from 0 to 60, in 5 seconds or something like that. It's been great. I also saw a question about where do you get panels? Where can you find them? Where do you shop for them? Go to your quilt shop because they are popular pretty much in shops everywhere. I would suggest, of course, going to various quilt shops because that's going to give you more variety. But also, I mean, you can search online. There are some very well-known and popular fabric shops that are online. And in the event that you would have to drive too far and your local quilt shop is not supplying that for you, so definitely do that. I want to give you guys a little piece of information. I'm going to pop over to my computer to do this. So let me do computer and go here. I just want you to know that you can watch Cyndi McChesney's show on the Quilt Show. The show number is 1910. All right, so you'll go, so 19 means that it's series 19. We're up into the 30s now, but if you go to show 19, series 19, show number 10, you can watch Cyndi's show, and that is now open free to all through June the 12th of 2024. So that's something I would encourage all of you to definitely take advantage of. And she shows you some things about panel quilts on that as well. So definitely go check out Cyndi's show on thequiltshow.com. I also want to let you guys know before I look at any more questions that we have our Saturday Sampler with D. Christopher. That is on the Quilt Show's Facebook page on Saturdays. And what she's got coming up is pretty darn exciting. It is a 2-week class where you're going to learn to create some amazing indigo designs on fabric. Indigo, you guys. And you're going to use a specialized indigo fabric paint kit, which is perfect for adding a unique touch to your quilting projects. In the first class, Dee's going to demonstrate how to mix the indigo paint and apply it to your fabric. And in the second class, she's going to show you how to make a small project with your very own painted fabric. I mean, I will tell you, for me, when I make my own fabrics, which is why I have dyed so much fabrics over the year, those are my priceless treasure fabrics. So the classes are June the 1st and June the 8th. Those are Saturday at 10 p.m. Pacific time on the Quilt Show Facebook page. And it also streams over to the Quilt Show's YouTube channel, or you can watch the recorded version. You can go to the Quilt Show after the fact, and those are posted in our Learn section. So if you can't make it live, you guys, and if indigo is something, I would just jot it down, try to watch it live, and if you can't, you can always watch later. But look at these. Here's the kit that you're going to get, and let me see if I can, I can't move that. Let me do this. I can. Let me escape for just a second. And, oh goodness, let me escape. Just give me a second here. I want to remove the Quilt Show's logo, which is in our face right now. There we go. Let me now go back to my computer. There you go. This is the link that you will need if you want to go purchase that indigo kit. You can get it. We've made it a short little link for you. Take a picture of that right now, or with your smartphone, or just rewind and find that at the bottom. But look at these fabrics that you can make. You can make this, the kind of fabric that you're going to be doing with D. So short 2 weeks, you're going to learn how to mix everything up and then make your fabrics, and then you're going to make a small little project. Here's another. You can do so many different things with paintbrushes, with stamping, all kinds of ways that you can use your indigo. And indigo has certainly got such a treasure of wealth of information historically for years and years and years and years. So that's going to be really fun. All right, let me just pop over and see if there's anything. Yes, indeed, Cyndi will come to your guild, so please do reach out to her through her Cedar Ridge Quilting website. Yes, Arta Hugo's quilt is beautiful, and I'm having fun working with him on this.
What's the secret?
Hey, what was the secret? Really? Well, who's the secret from? Well, everybody. He thinks it's a secret. It's not a secret anymore. So now, but the good thing is that now you have to really push. You're going to have to crack the whip on Hugo to make sure he gets it finished, right? Linda says we had a program about using panels just last night at the Quilt Guild. Well, that's pretty serendipitous. That's very, very good. And I'm thinking it's Paul. It says Paul, but sometimes I know there's shared accounts. But Paul's welcome to Missouri, my neck of the woods. We have some land there, and we get to go visit a little bit, but still staying here on the mountain for a little while longer. Here's my Dollywood shirt, you guys. Yeah, you bet your bluegrass, and that's Dollywood, Tennessee. So we have Silver Dollar City next to where we are, but I visited Dollywood last year. Loved Dolly Parton so much. Anyway, I thought you might ask about the shirt, so I'm showing it to you. All right, you guys, thanks for watching today. I hope that you will find your magic, your creativity, and sometimes that may just be panels. My very first year as a quilter, I bought a panel of a swan. All right, now I didn't make anything out of that panel. It was kind of maybe a misdyed second. They were selling it on the sales table, but it was a swan, and I ended up loving the feathers on the wings of that swan. And when I made my Baby It's Cold Outside quilt, which is a Baby It's Cold Outside quilt, which is a Santa Claus, I made his beard out of those swan feathers fabric. So sometimes you can find ways to use those panels and just use those fabrics as fussy cut as well. All right, you guys, thanks for joining me. I want to tell you that next week we are going to meet a new quilter, brand new quilter, and your jaw is going to be on the ground. So I cannot wait to show you and have you meet Nick Jarrett, 29 years old from Oregon, and his first quilt is going to knock your socks off. So I had an interview with him, and we're going to visit with Nick next Wednesday. So I hope to see you then. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.